anything but a grand final appearance, I think, is a failure for them.
Hello and welcome to The Offload, a brand new podcast for our radio network, bringing you the biggest stories in rugby league with the best opinions in the business. I'm James Willis, and today we're joined by the journalist Andrew Webster from the Australian newspaper, who is one of the lucky ones living it up in Las Vegas. Webby, great to see you, mate.
Thank you, James. I'm living it up is one way of describing how I'm behaving over here.
Yeah, well, it's very early days, so there's a long way to go.
Working at the moment, okay?
It gets, no doubt, and it gets harder as the weeks go on, and the parties are so good. I was there last year, and I'd just be keen for you to set the scene for us. Firstly, talk us through it. Some teams with huge followings involved this year, and amazing to see so many Aussies making the trip.
That's right. So it's funny, like this is the third time I've been here, obviously since it started, and Vegas is such a vast, city in many ways, and enormous. But by about from today, Wednesday onwards, particularly tomorrow and Friday is when the rugby league masses descend on Sin City, and you can feel it. There's Australian accents everywhere you go. I was in a bar at the Cosmopolitan last night talking to a horse trainer from Mount Isa. I was talking to a guy at breakfast here at Resorts World this morning who's a truck driver who's done 36 hours door to door to be here just to experience, and he's not even really a league fan. So that's how infectious this concept has become. The thing I'm really looking forward to the most will be the Bulldogs Army marching on Allegiant Stadium on Saturday around lunchtime. We've seen those scenes. When the Bulldogs are winning, they get their voice and they get the drums out, and I can't wait to see that on the famous Las Vegas Strip, the Canterbury Bulldogs marching on Allegiant Stadium. Should be a sight to behold.
They've obviously backed this concept in long term until, as we understand it, 2029 and beyond, and I think America is going to be the focus. There's been some talk about maybe shifting it to Miami. In terms of the marks of success, I mean, everyone focuses on the crowd, but just talk us through how they're going in trying to access and break into that US audience, both with TV, which hasn't been that impressive so far, but subscriptions and people signing up to watch the NRL from America.
Well, look, so that's the thing. I quoted Peter V'landys in The Australian a few days ago about this very topic, and he admitted, and it's very rare that the PVL admits they haven't got something spot on or that something hasn't been achieved. But he admitted that the US market has been much harder to crack. They haven't partnered with a wagering operator, an online operator like FanDuel or DraftKings, which is sort of what they stated from the very beginning. But the whole unintended consequence is just the publicity that it just turbocharges the season. All their TV ratings are through the roof. The other thing that they're very big on, and this is why Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo are so strong on global round and trying to globalise the game, is because they have an app called Watch NRL, and that's how you access NRL matches around the world. So apparently, Watch NRL subscriptions have pretty much doubled since they've started here in Vegas 3 years ago. Now, admittedly, and they admit this, that it's from a low base, but that's the end game, to try and bring more revenue into the game. And I do like the fact that, one, they've had a crack, and secondly, that they're prepared to play the long game. And they've said that from day one. So the Narcs out there will say, look at the crowd, you didn't fill the top tier, or, you've got, they had 61,000 for one of the main game in the first year. They had about 370 for the Auckland, for the Warriors game against Canberra last year, which was an increase. But they're not huge numbers as such. But, it's year 3. We can't expect it to be taking over America straight away, and I don't think that's their aim. They just think that if they can get their foot, a toenail in the market here, that's going to draw revenue into the game.
Are the teams enjoying it? I know some coaches have been pushing back against the concept, and they're worried about how it starts the season, but no doubt the players have enjoyed the preparation and the lead up. They do all sorts of different things, not just in Vegas, but other parts of the States.
They're loving it. They're loving it around here. So I think every team came directly to Vegas this year. In the past, some of the teams have come via via LA or other cities where they've had camps, but they've come directly here. And I was just talking to Stephen Crichton briefly at NRL 360, and he was saying it's just they can't believe how much fun and just the energy that's around the town and around the team, and everyone I've spoken to from all the other clubs are of the same opinion. So yeah, if you can imagine if you're a player or even a coach or an administrator, you want to be part of coming to Las Vegas at one point of your career.
No doubt. Or as a journo, and we look forward to being back there next year with his podcast and others across the network.
Journos, James.
I know.
Hard-working journos.
You're working around the clock, but there's plenty of opportunities to have some fun. This is your second trip to the US this year, isn't it? You've been to the Super Bowl already, and now you're here. So
I did. I'm an international man of mystery. I was at Super Bowl, and then I actually had to come back. So this is my second trip in the last sort of 3 weeks to America.
I'm keen just to run our eyes over the teams that are involved in these first two games in Vegas, because I think they're all in for interesting seasons for different reasons. Firstly, on the Bulldogs, and you just mentioned Stephen Crichton. They led the competition last year for a period. The Dogs fans were up and about, and then it really fell away off the back of the mid-year signing of Lockie Galvin, who will start at halfback again this year. And then obviously their finals series was very disappointing. How do you see Canterbury faring up this year?
Oh, they can definitely win it for what it's worth. I do think though they've got no excuses. Galvin coming in halfway through the year, it was very destabilising. And I thought the pressure put on that kid from it externally, in particular, was too much. So you can't say that whether Lachlan Galvin's going to work or not at the Canterbury Bulldogs, given that he came in halfway through the season. He had pre-season with the Tigers and ended up having an off-season with the Dogs. So. That said, it's got to work. They've played some pretty big cards in getting him to the club. I suppose their spine is what the big question mark on the Bulldogs. But anything but a grand final appearance, I think, is a failure for them.
Big call. Okay, that's really interesting. What about the Dragons? Obviously, a disappointing year last year. Shane Flanagan, premiership winning coach. Do they have the roster to be a top 8 side, do you think?
Oh, I think they could nudge into the top 8, but a lot of it's going to come down to the halves, isn't it? With Atkinson and Cole Flanagan. Look, it's no secret that I'm a lifelong Dragons sufferer. I'm not. I agreed with the extension of Shane Flanagan, but there's a lot of Dragons fans out there that are already contacting me through direct messages and and emails wanting me to put pressure on Shane Flanagan. That's before a ball's even been kicked for the regular season. He's been given time. He's got the backing of the board. Andrew Lancaster, the chairman, has told me that they extended Shane Flanagan because they wanted some stability to that club. That said, though, you're going to have to start. This is his third year, and he needs to be giving the top 8 a real shake. And otherwise, I don't think, unless it goes horrifically wrong throughout this year, I can't see him not being there at the start of next season. But Shane Flanagan's been given plenty of rope, and it's time to start delivering, and that's coming in the bottom 4 of the 8.
Now, I think the Cowboys were really disappointing last year. Obviously, pressure on the coach. They've got a lot of talented and representative players. How do you think they'll go this year?
It's got now or never for Todd Payten. Again, I don't think the expectation is for them to win the comp, and I don't think the expectation is them to finish in the 4, but they have to be playing finals football. They've got probably the best halfback in the game in Tom Dearden. If the Cowboys, if TAC was one half of it, they'd probably win the comp. But they're the type of team that will score 40 points and let in 50. Their defence is their big query. But yeah, it's the heat's on Todd Payten probably more than any other coach heading into the start of this season.
And the Knights are coming off the wooden spoon, and they've won a few of those in recent years. A new coach in Justin Holbrook. Are they going to improve? So much about Newcastle rests on Kalen Ponga, doesn't it?
It does, but also Dylan Brown. So, it is such a sore point with a lot of former Knights players, the long Dylan Brown deal and how long he's tied to that club. For Newcastle's sake, I hope it works. I think the negativity around Dylan Brown's signing, I think should be replaced by the excitement of him combining with Kalen Ponga. But Holbrook, first year coach, it's all very new, and that buys you a lot of time. But I think it's it's the starter forever for the Newcastle Knights this weekend.
No doubt. Hey, let's talk about one of the big stories around in rugby league away from Vegas, and that is the Zac Lomax affair. It's lawyers at 10 paces at the moment. Parramatta's involved. The Melbourne Storm are potentially involved. Just bring us up to date. Where are things at with Zac Lomax at this stage?
Well, it's hurtling towards the New South Wales Supreme Court next Monday morning. There's some talk around tonight here in Vegas that it could be sorted out, that Parramatta and Melbourne are negotiating yet more in terms of a compensation, financial compensation, which it'd have to be substantial, because Parramatta have said all along it's not about money, and they're a cashed up club because of their leagues club, so that's not like they need the money. For me, it's more about what that club stands for, and that's why Parramatta and Jim Sarantinos, the CEO, and Matt Beach, the chairman, like, they'll live or die by how they handle, and they come out the other side of this contract dispute. Look, I've said it and I've written it. Look, no disrespect to Zac, but Zac Lomax went to Parramatta in July last year and said, I'm out because I want to play R360, and then he was given a release on that condition that they had to seek their permission to come back into the competition. I know Peter V'landys is desperate to get him back to the NRL. He doesn't want him lost to the code, but you live and die by your decisions. And if he comes back to the code, then the club that released him, Parramatta, are at a disadvantage. They deserve something in return. So it's going to be all sorted. Smarter brains than me are going to be sorting it out in the New South Wales Supreme Court next week if it's not sorted out beforehand. But it's been a really messy story, and the fact that Parramatta have subpoenaed the NRL means we're about to find out just how much the NRL were trying to get Zac Lomax to the Storm.
But on principle, we did hear at the time when this was first proposed and players were talking about leaving that there were going to be long-term bans for anyone that joined a rival or a rebel competition. So I think fans would be wondering why that suddenly changed or softened, and he could be back in another jersey this year or next year.
You know what it is, James? It's the TV deal. Everything, all these major announcements, I've got more of this in a bigger piece in the Australian on Saturday. A lot of these big announcements, the aborted changes to the kickoff rule, the 2040 sort of changes that were made around ruck penalties and set restarts, the origin eligibility rules being changed. All of this is about engineering and sparking interest as the NRL heads into these very big TV deals. So that said, though, that shouldn't be a factor in whether Zac Lomax plays or not. It's interesting in the sense that, just as I said before, what it means for the NRL, in the sense that it came out in the court documents that Justin Rodsky, the Storm CEO, had texted Andrew Abdo and said, you apply the blowtorch to Parramatta to get Zac Lomax to that club. And people are thinking, well, what did Abdo say in reply? The fact that there was no reply in the court document says that Andrew Abdo has played a very straight bat throughout this whole process. So I know the NRL privately don't think they are going to get dragged into it, but if it goes to court, James, it's going to be very interesting what comes up.
And just lastly, Webby, before we let you go back to Vegas, no doubt you've got an early night there tonight, I'm sure. Or
Yeah, I want to get an early one.
Yeah, okay. Mitch Barnett is going to...
There's no parties going on at all in this city tonight, so I'll have to go to bed.
I'm sure you can find one. I'll send you some details once we finish off here, because there are a couple of options, probably within 100 metres of you. Mitch Barnett to leave the Warriors, and it has been an issue for the Warriors on and off, where players on compassionate grounds want to come back to Australia, get homesick, whatever the reasons are. He's been fantastic for the Blues in recent years. Where do you think he'll end up?
Oh, I don't know. There's plenty of talk about the Broncos. I saw the Knights had been thrown in the mix. He'd be a perfect fit for the Broncos, wouldn't he, with Payne Haas going there? And if he wants to push for premierships, that's where you probably want to go. It's very, it's funny how this story rolled out, that he was being given a release from the Warriors, and then the next day it's like, there's a little asterisk if we too get compensation, which I think they are more than entitled to get. They are more than entitled to get it. And as Cameron George, their CEO, said, that should be a player. everyone keeps saying, oh, we can give you transfer fees of 500 or, that's not, in a salary cap controlled competition that doesn't have draft picks because we don't have a draft like the AFL. It's you play. That's how you offset losing a player. But they did get Fisher Harris on compassionate leaves. But I think there's a something going around on social media of the compassionate leave Warriors 13. So they've let a lot go over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Webby, great job on debut today. We'll chat to you next week, and for all of our viewers and listeners, we'll be rolling out a new podcast every day during the footy season. So we appreciate your time. Enjoy Vegas, and we'll chat to you again soon.